We've all had one of these classic houseplants at one point or another. Let's talk about Monstera. What's up, fellow plant enthusiasts? My name is Dylan and this is Baines Botanicals. Today we're going to be talking about Monstera. Now, Monstera deliciosa in particular is a classic houseplant, and its beautiful large fenestrated leaves adorn t-shirts and mugs and everything everywhere. I mean, we see one of those leaves and we immediately think houseplant. I have actually here a Thai constellation. It's not very big necessarily, and it is getting a little bit of brown in some of the particularly white parts. But man, I mean, it is just such a beautiful leaf. Now, it's really amazing when we start to see the Thai constellations in a really big size. Let's adjust that. Where they get gigantic. And some of them have such beautiful splotches of variegation on it. It's just amazing. Now, Monstera deliciosa actually does produce a delicious edible fruit in the wild, which of course you can't grow inside, but that would be cool. I've never tried it myself. I don't even know how I would get a hold of one, but that would be good. I also have here, this is Monstera carstiniana. Oh, you guys are going to make me look it up. It is, carstinianum. Monstera carstinianum, wow. Also known as Monstera Peru and Monstera Green Galaxy. And I just love, this might be my favorite Monstera actually, because the texture on these leaves is incredible. And they get really big too. This particular one has really big leaves. I just love touching them just because they feel so like, they just have such a, I don't know, almost scaly feel to them, like alligator skin or something. Not that I've touched an alligator. That would be cool too though. And I also have Monstera standiliana, I think. It's also called the Monstera cobra. And this one actually has variegation splotches, if you want to call them that. It has a pattern on it that's more like the Thai constellation. And this just sort of occurs naturally. This one isn't quite as vibrant as one I've had in the past, but it's still a pretty neat plant. Now, I'm missing a Monstera adansonii, that is the Swiss cheese plant, not to be confused with Rhaphidophora, which is different. And there is also, well, there's a couple of other Monsteras that are a little harder to find. Monstera siltepecana is kind of, it kind of has the texture of these leaves, but it's more in the shape of like a Cebu blue, pothos. It's really neat. Like I said, it's just kind of hard to find. There's also a Monstera obliqua. I think, is it obliqua? There's another one that's similar, but it's similar to an adansonii with its really big fenestrated leaves, but the fenestrations in the leaves are gigantic to the point that it's almost like if you traced a leaf, like the tracing of the leaf is all that there is. Like the amount of green on this plant is so small. I don't really know how people keep them alive. I just feel like those would wither away. But yeah, that's the basic Monstera family. Like I said, there are other ones out there, but those are the ones you're going to see the most. We haven't even done this yet. Here is the taxonomy information for Monstera. And Monstera, of course, is an aroid, so it is in the family Aeraceae, along with many of our other houseplants, Epipremnum, Philodendron, Aglaonema, Alocasia, Spathiphyllum. There's just a really big list. Yes, so it is an aroid, so we are going to treat it with similar care to other aroids. Now, the difference is, well, let's get into the care. Let's do that. These guys need bright and direct light. Direct sun's probably going to burn them, so just kind of keep it bright and direct. You can do medium light, but they're not going to grow as well, just because they are from a really tropical place, and they get those big leaves for a reason, because they are trying to absorb a lot of sun. Hence the genus name Monstera, right? Watering, they need consistent watering. you want them to dry out, but you don't want to overwater them either, because their aeroids, of course, are going to be kind of epiphytic and attach themselves to a tree or something in the wild so that they can kind of get that height, to get out from the bottom of the jungle and kind of break the canopy and be able to get some of that light. But because of that, they don't really like being in dense, wet soil. So you want something, as far as soil goes, that's a little faster draining. You can use regular houseplant soil and that's fine. Sometimes people add a little bit of extra perlite or orchid bark in there, just a little bit for that added drainage. I know some people that use rocks and things as well, just to kind of give it a little bit more. Now, because you're doing that, because you're making it faster draining, you may be watering more frequently because it's not going to hold on to that water. It's going to wash over the roots, get them nice and soaked so that it can absorb that moisture, and then it's going to dry out. So something that's in a really well-draining mix, you want to make sure that you're still watering it enough. And you'll know if you're not watering it enough because it will start to get brown tips on it. It'll start to get brown on the margins and just kind of not look very good. What else? Humidity. They like humidity. Monstera deliciosa usually isn't too bad, but some of these other ones can be a little bit finicky with a combination of water and humidity. So I would err on the side of keeping it above like 50% just to be safe. They could probably go a little bit lower, but just keep an eye on your watering. Is all that making sense? Like, the thing about Monstera is that they are not the easiest plants to take care of. These do not make top lists for easy plants, just because they do have a little bit of a reputation for not being the easiest to take care of. They're not really that finicky per se, but they're not a philodendron. They're not something that you can just kind of barely pay any attention to and it's going to thrive. Like you do have to baby these just a little bit. Just not as bad as you would like a calathea or a fern. Where was I going with that? We were talking about humidity. Oh, fertilizer. They like fertilizer. They have these big, nice leaves. They like fertilizer. You can fertilize them bi-weekly during the growing season and then not at all during the dormant season, late fall, winter, early spring. And they'll love it. I mean, especially if you can get one that's a little more like foliage focused. Like, you don't really want to use a flower fertilizer on these because they don't flower, at least not in the house. Something that's really going to help them thrive and produce lots of beautiful leaves. I think that's all I have about Monstera. Like I said, there are other species of Monstera. Please put some of them in the comments so I can look them up. But the ones I listed are most of the basic ones you're going to find in a store. Definitely pick up a Monstera if you don't have one. I recommend this one because it's amazing. It's not the easiest to take care of, but it's still amazing. I guess one other thing I would say really quick about Monstera is that, especially Monstera deliciosa, you can train them onto poles. I know some people that have like a sun porch or a green room. They can actually get a lattice and train the Monstera deliciosa onto a lattice so that it really just starts to climb. And you'll notice that the leaves will grow in such a way that they will always be facing outward, trying to get that sun. I think Monstera is really one of those plants that you don't necessarily rotate as much, just because the leaves do grow to where they will just be facing the light. You know how they say you should rotate a lot of your plants so that they grow evenly? Well, Monstera deliciosa especially is one that they grow a certain way. Does that make sense? Like, they don't need to be rotated. Although these other ones probably could, just because they're growing more like regular house plants. But go look at your Monstera deliciosa. They're all facing a certain direction for a reason. I just hit my ring on the table. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I thank you so much for your comments and your likes and subscribes and everything. And I look forward to seeing some new species of Monstera. And until the next video, I will see you very soon. Thank you.